Thank you, Chairman General.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I talked with the treasurer about public confidence before any additional taxpayer money is spent. And I would like to talk with you about the broader budget and your work, but then also get into your specific budget, which we really don't ask a lot of questions about because we get on other topics. I'm going to read you one of your quotes and recently on a find. It's a good one. It's a good one. And you can maybe expand upon that, and I have some follow-up questions. We announced the audit that they have the largest surplus in the state. A board member comes up to me and says, we have a tax increase vote tonight, but we didn't know we had this surplus, DePasquale said. So we saved that district a tax hike. If you could talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh School District audit and how on earth does something like that happen?
I'll walk through a little bit of the history of that audit. Soon after Mayor Peduto took office, he called me up. I forget if it was a call or a text, but he said, need to talk to you about the Pittsburgh School District. And when we spoke, he said, I'm being told that they may go bankrupt by 2016 or 2017. I need you to get in ASAP and do an audit. Now, they were on the schedule, but at his request, we did move it up in the schedule. It was an exhaustive process, and we went into it with knowing that their belief of the administration was that they were looking at 2018 at the latest of there being the financial wrecking ball, meaning potential bankruptcy of the city, or not able to make their bills, if you want to say it's not technically bankruptcy. We do the audit. And I say we, it's not just me, it's the whole team, and we put a lot of work into it, and it's obviously a very big district. And we have our internal meeting about it, and it's like, wow, they're going to be thrilled because not only are they not going bankrupt, but they have the largest reserve fund in the state, about $129 million, give or take a couple dollars. And we verified that those were the exact numbers. I am sure that when we picked the date for when I was going to go out there for my press conference with the superintendent, first of all, I didn't know that they were scheduled to vote for a tax increase. We picked a day when I was able to get there. It happened to be on the day that the tax increase was scheduled for a vote that evening by the board. If we would have been a day later in the press conference, that tax increase would have likely happened. The board members that were there at the press conference literally came up and said, we were told and have been getting told that this is much worse. Are you sure of these numbers? Look, you can obviously be off by a penny or two, but where we were showing the district was very strong financial shape, relatively speaking, because you can always do something better. Of the big city districts in Pennsylvania, they were in the best financial shape of any audit we had found. That night, they tabled the resolution on the tax increase, and a month later, they voted to not raise them and keep the millage rate as is. How could you think that you're going bankrupt in 2018 and have the largest reserve fund in the state? I wish I had an answer for that, but I don't. I'm just pleased that we were able to do the work we did and make sure that the taxpayers didn't get a higher bill, and actually know that there's money that the district now has that they can make some investments in early education, which is one of the, or art and music, one of the programs that many people in the city of Pittsburgh think they want to see in the class, back in the classroom.
I saw, I think one of your other quotes was that it was like a bookkeeping error, or maybe they didn't put quotation marks around it, but it said a lot of times it comes to poor bookkeeping. Yeah. I mean, is that something that really should be audited then also as processes? Because
well, we did in our audit show them how to make sure that didn't happen again.
And that's not the only district in Allegheny County. I mean, 3 years ago, there was another school district, a lot smaller, 3,000 students, that found $28 million. Right. So again, it gets back to what I was talking about earlier is, we've made tax increase votes in this body, but there needs to be confidence that you have something to sell to your constituents, that this is the right thing to do. And when you're doing your job, in our meeting before this, you said, wait till some other ones come out, right? Yeah. So there's more to come.
Right.
And we're sitting here debating about, sending more money to a system, at least administratively, that doesn't seem to be working very well for the local constituents in at least 2 cases, and it sounds like there's more to come.
Yeah, the city of Harrisburg, for example, every student at the high school is on free or assisted lunch. Obviously, that's because of economic challenges in the city and many of the kids that are in the public school system. We found in our audit that the kids were going through the lunch line and there was no tracking of what they had. Now, again, I'm going to sit there and tell you, I want those kids to get a good, healthy meal. This isn't about that. It's about not tracking it. And they lost millions of dollars in federal reimbursement because they weren't even tracking the food the kids were getting in the lunch line.
Okay. Now, if we can get into your budget briefly, your request for the office this year is $43,596,000. Of that number, roughly, do we know what the salary is?
Yeah, the average salary of the employees, so break it out, our complement is about 275 or 475, 480. The average salary is $63,854
You know what the
per
total
person.
salary is?
95% of that is a salary or healthcare benefit request.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, pension, healthcare, salary. 95% of that is that.
What I'm trying to get to is your staff had let our office know that there was a $600,000 increase in your workers' compensation line item. And this is weeds. This is really weeds right now, and it's something we could follow up on. But I would really like, the help of your office, because it's titled the Auditor, of finding out what the problem is here. I'm assuming that most of your staff's time is either office or you have auditors that are out on the road and they ultimately end up in an office somewhere doing paperwork. You're not building buildings or anything like that. So if you look at the rates that are being charged for workers' compensation, the $600,000 increase is probably, on my calculations, about $500,000 more, and that's just the increase, than what somebody that has the same exposure would be paying in the private sector, okay? So there's something wrong here in this calculation. I understand there's self-insurance and you might be paying for other departments' losses, but that's unfair, I think, for your budgeting process.
Yeah, that is a number that we are told we have to pay. That's not one we came up with, and it was, let's just say, I might have said something along the lines of, how in the do we have to pay that?
It's a 70% increase. Your rate was a 70% increase. So either you're having a lot of injuries or there's some issues here that need to be further investigated, because this is so outrageous. I mean, it is multiple times what's being paid, even by school districts, for example, and they have a similar exposure to what you do.
Our work is very important, but nobody has ever, said the auditing line of work is inherently dangerous.
Well, and I understand somebody could get injured in an auto accident.
And that does happen from time to time.
That's fine, but your increase was 70%, so something needs to be audited from a risk management standpoint, and that's not your area of expertise, but somebody in the state that is passing these numbers along to you, those figures need to be looked at.
To me, there's no way to get around that we're covering for some other work, because there's no that we just don't tap into it that much.
And that's unfair to your line item, and it's hiding then the real problem and symptoms of problems that are elsewhere in the state, which is ultimately costing taxpayers money. Okay, and in your case, I think it's probably $1 million, but I would need the actual salary without benefits.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
you.
Look forward to we can discuss that further. Look forward to it.